didn't have a single crescent to look at, because the first crescent came along in 1775, and sadly he died in 1764. But he had created something of a joyous attraction, because imagine a single track line running down here, 13-foot long trucks going down here, carrying 5 or 6 tons of bar stone, controlled only by both sides. Dad's Army earlier. Look to your left-hand side now, if you will. There's a large obelisk on the left-hand side there, and about 20 feet from there is buried Private Godfrey Dad's Army Arnold Ridley. But Arnold Ridley is a Barthonian. He was the last man to be buried in this churchyard, the now deconsecrated churchyard of Bath Abbey, way back in 1984. He was a pretty good actor. He was also a very good playwright. If you ever get the opportunity, do go and see a play called The Ghost Train. It is still touring today. It was written in 1923, and it was based on the railway station called Manchester. But perhaps more importantly, look on your right-hand side, if you will, on top of the hill here, there is Widcombe Crescent. And that crescent is actually built the wrong way round, because the views over 9 of our 11 crescents are actually out in front, whereas Widcombe Crescent, Mr. Charles Harcourt Masters, decided to build it the wrong way round. All the interior of the buildings are reversed, so as you can enjoy the view out of the rear of the property. I can tell this lady's instant house prices here. If you look at number 1 with the lovely Italianate style balcony on the back of Widcombe Crescent, that recently sold for £1.9 million. But imagine the view there. There would be the remnants of the old railway line, road coming down to the city. These buildings are all Victorian of a slightly later period. But if your pocket won't stretch to 1.9 million, 360,000 will get you a quite unique piece of British industrial history. Because out the front of the bus, coming up on the left-hand side, is a small row of low industrial housing. They were built by Ralph Allen, architect John Wood, in the mid-1730s, and they were given free of charge, rent-free, to his stonemasons. So it is an example of early industrial housing. Clearly he reduced their salaries, and because he was a sensible man and wanted to get more of his money back, he opened a number of pubs in the lovely little village of Widcombe here and sold them alcohol and beer. A shrewd businessman if ever there was one. And his stonemasons will be working straight through the front of the bus alongside the river, which I'll show you in a moment. Those of you of a nervous disposition might like to put your life jackets on now, because we're going to pass over the Kennet and Avon Canal, which I showed you earlier. When we pass over it, Bristol is to your left, about 15 miles, and London is to your right. And the block on the right-hand side of the bus, if our bus is to drive into the block first, if you would fill the block back up, let's go your bus disappear. Because the Kennet and Avon Canal joins the River Avon on the left-hand side, and the canal barges immediately up very quickly. So there's the River Avon over there, there's London in that direction, and our great masonry stonework has been exported all over the world. The furthest I know bar stone's been exported, I've seen it in Cape Town, although this gentleman from Delhi, there are tons of bar stone in Delhi. But look on your right hand side now, quintessential British photograph. That is where the stonemasons would have been, then the canal, and the stone bridge over there is the demarcation line between the canal and the River Avon. The River Avon runs out the front of the bus, and so bar stone has been exported through the port of Bristol and also through the port of London, because the canal, Kennet and Avon Canal, runs up to the River Kennet, which is a canalised river near Newbury, and that in turn connects in with the River Thames. So we have had port connections with both Bristol and the Port of London. But what you're looking at over on the right hand side is the backside of Bath Spa Station. Bath Spa Station and the Great Western Railway which runs through it was the vision of a man called Isambard Kingdom Brunel, probably our greatest ever engineer, and Isambard Kingdom Brunel's vision was to connect London up with New York. And in 1841 he opened up the Great Western Railway, took his passengers on the initial journey from London to Bristol. He had already started up the Great Western Steamship Company to take his passengers from Bristol to New York. But sadly, very few people actually wanted to go from Bristol to New York, and it therefore went bankrupt in 1846. But what we have today on my right hand side is the Great Western Railway, and I've never in my 49 years of living in Bath, look at the small brickwork arches coming along here on the right hand side. There are 73 archways that carry the line. I have never seen anybody repairing more than the odd brick on these great Victorian archways. The Victorians really did know how to build great industrial architecture. The thing is though, the view on your right hand side is going to change quite dramatically over the next year, because the whole of the line from Bristol to London and even down to Swansea is about to be electrified at a cost of some £7.5 billion. So that diesel engine on your right hand side will in about 18 months time be a thing of the past. The views through our city will change dramatically over the next 18 months to 2 years. The views are always changing, however. Out in front of us, coming up on the right hand side, a rather basic car park and a dreadful multi-storey car park over on the right hand side. Come back in about 5 years time, this whole area here in March 1942, the right hand side would look completely different. There had been lots of little two-up, two-down houses all along the side of the river here, lovely little streets called Cat Lane, Dog Lane, Milk Street, Avon Street. This would have been, this whole area here, the slum area in Victorian Bath. But in March 1942 things were about to change, because British and American heavy bombers bombed the beautiful German cultural cities of Rostock and Lübeck. And the German Chancellor Adolf Hitler was so incensed by that he instructed the Luftwaffe to take retaliation on British cultural cities. In order to do that, they simply got hold of the German tourist guide of 1940, the Baedeker Guide to the UK, and from that they selected 4 British cultural cities for heavy blitz bombing. York, Norwich, Bath and Exeter were very badly damaged, and over 400 Bathonians were killed. Over 2,000 of our lovely cultural buildings were either destroyed or partially destroyed, and in excess of 5,000 other buildings were completely obliterated. But fortunately, although those raids are now historically important, the Baedeker raids, the Germans made a major military mistake, because they never ever came back to bomb Bath again. They had missed most of the hotels in the city centre, which were occupied by Ministry of Defence personnel who moved out of London, and they also failed to notice that there was an 80-acre underground ammunition depot not 5 miles from where this bus is now on the eastern side of the city. Underneath a little village called Monkton Farley, there was a huge ammunition facility which was literally storing thousands of tons of ammunition, which was incredibly important in the Normandy landings in June 1944. It is extremely lucky that the Germans probably never even knew they were there. However, I'm afraid to say we are now coming towards the end of the tour, but we have one last gem to show you. Look to your left-hand side if you'd like to, and here is the most controversial and expensive building ever to be constructed in our city. £365 million worth of mock Georgian architecture, and I'm afraid to say it is not solid bar stone. I can remember the lovely Victorian buildings on the left-hand side, torn down in the 1960s, made way for a 1960s Tottenham Hale car park and bus station. They were demolished in the early 2000 period, and we ended up with this. If you look very carefully, well, you don't look very carefully, the corniche here, how dirty it's going. Look behind where that pigeon is, how grubby some of the stonework is coming. Well, I'm afraid to say this building almost cost us our World Heritage status in the year 2009, because the UNESCO organisation, who are the custodians of World Heritage status sites, were so appalled by this that they came back and looked at it. Thankfully, we did retain our status. This building here is not solid bar stone. It is actually a box girder steel construction deep underneath, with large slabs of concrete hung on the box girder steel construction. If you imagine a slab of concrete half the size of the side of this bus, that is what hangs off the box girder steel construction. And then bar stone was mined about 6 miles from where this bus is now, in large blocks weighing in excess of 6 tons. They were taken all the way to Italy, where they were cut into 25mm each small pieces, about the size of a piece. They were done together and struck on the bar stone. Ignore the little line stone from not the size of the bar stone. It is literally each bar stone worrying thing is dampness is believed to be getting between the concrete and the bar stone, which is why I don't think, if Jane Austen is here today, I don't think she'd be describing this building as white, bright and glaring. However, we did retain our World Heritage status. The UNESCO organisation are keeping a very close eye on the new buildings on the Western development, which you will have seen Royal Victoria Park, where I mentioned that red crane. Do a city tour, look at those and consider whether you were in UNESCO, whether you'd let us keep our status. I think they will, because they're on the outskirts of a city. And on that note of caution for the future, thank you so much for coming to my home city. On behalf of Andy and myself, thank you very much indeed for joining us. We are going to turn the corner here, so please do not practice the art of levitation until the engines have been turned off. I would hate you to go falling over. And we are allowed to accept gratuities, and there is a box at the bottom of the stairs. Much more importantly, if you'd like to do a city tour, when we come to a halt, the city tour bus will be about 20 feet across the road, so you can hop off this bus and get on the next city tour. So just behind that pink bus on the right hand side, there is a city tour bus. Do remember to stop at number 3, get on there, and you can off there. And on that note, thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your time in the magnificent city of Bath. Thank you so much, and bye. Okie dokie, we now all get up.